Well, hey guys, I'm Nick and welcome back to the channel. Well, today we're talking about the very first episode of part 2 of season 1 of Star Trek Prodigy. This is episode 11. Kind of feels like a season 2, it's been so long, but it is in fact the second half of season 1. And our episode this week was called Asylum. We started off with the crew of the Protostar in a bit of an underwater race, chasing some mer people who are poachers, trying to hunt a whale. Now, I'm definitely getting some, some vibes from Star Trek 4 Voyage Home here.
There'll be whales here!
As our crew of the Protostar are trying to stop these poachers from getting the whale, they end up beaming the whale on board the ship and putting it back in the water and, solving the problem and doing the right thing, which is all very, very much George and Gracie from, from Star Trek 4. So definitely some shades of that in our first episode back here for Prodigy. Also, I picked up on this opening sequence. There were definitely some similarities to that scene in Star Wars Episode 1 Phantom Menace, where we've got Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon Jinn and Jar Jar Binks in the submarine flying from one side of the planet through the planet core to the other side of the planet, where they're getting attacked by ever increasing marine life and getting swallowed by sea monsters and all that sort of stuff. So there's, maybe some little comparisons there as well, I thought, in this episode. There's always a bigger fish. That's the adage, I guess, in this. But yeah, but definitely, probably more so Star Trek 4. Guys, if you haven't subscribed to Sci-Finatics yet, please don't forget to do so before you finish watching this video. Click on that big red button to stay up to date with all the latest Star Trek news on YouTube. Now, pretty early on in the start of this episode, we get Gwen getting her memory back. It doesn't take long. We're right in the very first act of this episode. I wasn't sure how long they were going to string this out for, because obviously in the end of the last season, Gwen lost her memories by seeing a reflection of Zero in the comm badge. Obviously, the diviner got completely messed up, but Gwen just copped a reflection, so she only probably lost her memories for a very short space of time, which she seems to have got back pretty quickly. So I guess that's going to work out, better for them. But not necessarily better for every ship that comes their way, as soon the Federation relay station will come to learn. This is our very first Federation manned station that our heroes have come across. So they must be right on the very edge of the Delta Quadrant, feeding into, I guess, the Beta Quadrant, I suppose. So, yes, they come across their very first Federation manned station, where we see our Denobulan character, Lieutenant Junior Grade Barnes Frax. He's a Denobulan. Been a while since we've seen a Denobulan, obviously most well known for Dr. Phlox, the Chief Medical Officer on board Archer's Enterprise in Star Trek Enterprise. Cool to see a Denobulan again. And he goes through and he scans all of our heroes, and he's obviously, very welcome to see other Starfleet people on there, but obviously they're not quite Starfleet people, but don't tell them that. We just stole the ship. It's like, shut up, Jankum, shut up, shut up, shut up. He's letting on a bit too much. Going through scanning all, obviously scans Jankum and says, you Tellarite, and you're one of the founding members of the Federation, and he's all very chuffed by that. Obviously, Brick Rocks, the Bricker, Melanoid Slime Worm for Murph, Zero as a Medusan, and a bit of an unknown species unknown for Gwen. I think she's Valnacut, but obviously the Federation hasn't come across Valnacut yet. And then obviously, most interestingly, when the scan occurs for Dahl kind of gets a alert, contact Starfleet Command immediately. So yeah, what is it about Dahl's species that sets off such alarms with Starfleet Command? Interesting that it wouldn't just say unknown, because when Gwen was scanned, it said unknown species. When Dahl was scanned, it's not just a matter of unknown species, it's a report this to Starfleet Command. So obviously Dahl's species must be known, but why is he such a important factor to alert Starfleet to his presence immediately for? Interesting. And next, what we get, probably one of the highlight of this episode, we get a bit of a flashback in the form of a holodeck program. We've got Admiral Janeway on the USS Dauntless. She's running a holodeck program, which is the first launch of the Protostar under the command of Captain Chakotay. So good to see Chakotay and Janeway back again in this scene, even if it is just a holodeck program and a bit of a flashback that Janeway is replaying there. We don't really get to see, any of Chakotay's rest of his crew on board the Protostar, but we get to see him and a little interaction there between him and Janeway. So that's cool. We all had a pretty good idea that Chakotay was going to pop up in this first episode back. I thought it was going to be a tiny bit more than just that we got the very brief moment in the holodeck there. But I guess they don't want to give away too much too soon. Obviously, Rock starts looking into all the different sciences, and there's so many different areas of science she's into and wants to get involved with and everything. And it's sort of, a bit overwhelming, all this information our heroes are getting all in a big dumping from the computer at the relay station there. And Gwen gets to get her memories back, and she obviously starts to remember that the Protostar is a weapon that's been programmed by her father to pretty much, once communications are established between the Protostar and any other Federation station or ship or anything, immediately a virus infects the system and everything starts tearing itself apart. Which is what they find happening in the station, where as soon as that the logs and everything are downloaded and everything, the virus has infected the station and it starts tearing itself apart. We've got the comm array there, just basically all of the weapon systems are just blasting itself to pieces. And our heroes have to get out of there pretty quickly. Obviously our caretaker, the Denobulan character, Mr. Frax there, he obviously thinks that the crew of the Protostar are saboteurs. He gets away in a escape pod, but our heroes are kind of forced to do a bit of a space jump, wearing EV suits, and have to jump from the station to the ship. And there's a little bit of suspension of disbelief required here for this moment, because I looked at all these the space suits on the rack and I thought, well, they're never going to have one fitting Rock's size. They're just going to be humanoid-sized space suits. And then we cut away, and then suddenly we cut back to the man. Rock's wearing this suit. It's like, hang on. This is a little bit suspension of disbelief territory here. It's like, hang on. They're not going to have a spacesuit just on hand that just so happens to fit Rock. I thought that was probably a little bit of a stretch, that they would just happen to have something that would perfectly fit her physique. But anyway, let's go with it. And we have to do a run across the hull. She has to use a big science brain to kind of calculate the trajectory, because the Protostar's passing by and they've got to jump at the right time to get back to the ship. And obviously, hologram Janeway adds a little bit of a helping hand by using the tractor beam to pull them back into the ship so they don't go floating off into space forever. And our episode ends this week with the crew of the Dauntless, the Janeway and Admiral Janeway and crew. So we get a little bit of an introduction to her first officer and navigator and chief medical officer, the Andorian, the Trill, and the Tellarite. Get a little bit of a glimpse at them. Not a huge amount of screen time, but just a couple of words from each, just to kind of get a sense of the characters. But they go back to Tars Lamora and they work out what exactly has happened there. They find the Diviner unconscious. He's had his brain turned to, mush or whatever, courtesy of Zero casting eyes on the Medusan. So I'm not sure whether is he going to be able to be brought back, or is he just going to be a dribbling puddle of mess or whatever from having his brain pretty much lobotomized courtesy of Zero. So, well, I guess it depends on how good a doctor Dr. Noom is, the Tellarite doctor on Janeway's ship there, courtesy of Jason Alexander. We know from George from Seinfeld. It'll be interesting to see how much screen time going forward we get with Admiral Janeway on the Dauntless versus our crew on the Protostar. Hopefully we do a bit of bouncing back and forth between the two and find out what's going on, on both fronts. I think that would be quite interesting. I think this was a solid episode to start the second half of season 1 for Prodigy. Good to see Janeway and Chakotay back together again, even if it was just in a holodeck recreation or a holodeck flashback. Still good to see. And look, always the graphics and the animation, everything in Prodigy is really good, really exciting. You know, we had a good opening sequence. We had a good, you know, sequence on the comma ray and everything there as well. So yeah, I think this was a fine, you know, fairly solid episode to start the show back again. But let me know what you guys think. Leave your thoughts in the comment section, as always, and leave a like and a comment. Super thanks as well. Really helps the channel out. Much appreciated, guys, if you're able to. And if you can't, then pick up a t-shirt in the merch store. So many designs, heaps of designs, plenty there. Putting new ones in every couple of days. So please, yeah, check out the merch store and pick yourself up a bargain and help support the channel at the same time. I'll catch you guys very soon with my next video. I'll see you soon.